Look at this map. What was once just a couple hundred provinces is now almost 2,000. The work modders do is incredible, but if you're like me, even though you might love the awesome complexities of Total War's most impressive experiences, sometimes you might want something a bit more chill, something a bit more relaxing and close to the original package, but with that touch of something new. For me, one of the most nostalgic Total War games is Rome, and for good reason I think. It's just a damn good game. But you know, the original game do have some shortcomings. Returning today, you might find the map to be a bit small. Perhaps the difficulty is a bit too simple, perhaps you want a bit more scope, but retain that original feeling of things. I think I got the perfect mod for you today. So buckle up buddy, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get warring. Remember that map I showed you before? That's from the mod RIS Imperium Surrectum. It's not the mod I'll be talking about today, but as it happens, the lead modder also made another mod that I've simply fallen in love with. But the thing is, it's not really a finished mod at all, but a fully functioning tech demo known as Vanilla Enhancement Map version 1. It's definitely not the most enticing or inspiring name, but you know what? It really doesn't have to be, because it does everything it says right there on the tin. This is your tried and true nostalgic Rome Total War campaign, featuring the Julii, Scipii, and Brutii plus that Senate in their quest to conquer the world for Rome. It has the Gauls, gods I hate Gauls, the Carthaginians, gods I hate Carthaginians, the Seleucids, I'm fine with the Seleucids actually, and all of the other vanilla factions like the Greek states and so on and so forth. We have the same buildings, the same units, the same music, everything is the same as you remember it. Except this absolute unit of a map. Not as large as the largest Rome Remastered map in the world, that prize goes again to RIS, but perhaps about 3 times the size of the regular game, this vanilla enhancement map is as beautiful as it is awesome to play on. Italy now becomes a true test of your skill, even as the Julii to expand away from, since you'll now have to deal with a Gallic faction that acts like a truly united Gaul. Because here's the thing, here's what it means to play the vanilla game on a map like this. Because we have no added new factions, the factions that are already here suddenly have a lot of new room to expand in. The new cities added are all rebel owned after all, disjointed and relatively easy to pick apart. Which means that whereas in the original game, the factions were basically bordering each other from the get-go, and now every empire suddenly has a lot more room for expansion. This means that the AI is actually going to expand like crazy in whatever direction they choose. Meaning you'll see, and not too far into the game either actually, massive AI empires that will offer you major challenges. For example, I did a run as the Julii, not playing anywhere near as aggressively as I should have done, but going at it at a fairly normal pace. What happened was that the Gauls have now proved to be a major barrier to further expansion in the west, seeing as they are committed to blocking my passage into Gaul and Iberia. This little move of just expanding the map and nothing else has had the effect of creating a massive war this early on in the game, but one that feels like a genuine tug of war. I not only have to think about the Gauls, but also what allowing them to keep me at bay does to my future as an expansionist Roman faction, especially when seeing it in relation to my 2 so-called allies. At the moment, we have a stalemate in the mountains until I can relieve my forces with reinforcements, but it is an epic war right now and I love this challenge to my rise. Of course, I'm not only expanding in the west, but trying to get a foothold in the east, but that's proving difficult exactly because of the other powerful factions, and even my own allies, who will try to expand into my claimed territory if I let them. In many ways, this means that I'm sometimes rooting for barbarians or Greeks to put up a challenge to the Scipii and the Brutii, which they actually are now. Because the same thing is happening with my Roman allies. Scipii managed it in the end, but it was a challenge for them to conquer Sicily. Since now, Carthage is an actual powerhouse to begin with, and as it should be, seeing as it controls virtually all of North Africa, parts of southern Iberia, and of course the western Mediterranean islands. This makes Carthage a potential mad powerhouse. But even here, say if you play them yourself, you'll have to contend with the expansionist Scipii, the Iberians, who now will be anxiously colonizing Iberia, and the Numidians, who just might pose a challenge from within. In other words, the battle for Sicily even as a human player will be tough, especially since you'll also need a navy to transport your troops over the straits, which no longer features a land bridge, and I very much appreciate that. For the Brutii, well, they're the Brutii, they'll always do well. But here's the thing this time around. The Brutii might dominate the Greek cities in the beginning, but as they expand, so too will they meet new and large enemy forces. Both the Macedonians, Dacians, and whatever else will now also feature quite heavily in the region, especially over time, meaning that the Brutii will meet massive resistance at some point or another, and I think that's really cool, since it means that the Roman factions won't automatically dominate everything all at once anymore. Thing is, you're going to feel this challenge no matter where you play, and at virtually every point in the game. As the Seleucids, you're bound to come up against a powerful Egypt in the south, and Parthians, Armenians, Macedonians, and whatever else in the north and west at some point. Carthage will face a Rome perhaps more powerful than ever, but as Britannia, you might find yourself better positioned than before, seeing as you now have an entire mass of an island to yourself. Indeed, every faction will have ample early game room to expand if you can take advantage of all the new cities. And you kind of have to, because if you don't, the AI will. This means that while you might be fighting rebels for the first few turns depending on where you begin, you will come up against powerful adversaries in the medium to long term, and they will absolutely be out to get you. And of course, nothing has been changed except for the campaign map here, meaning that on the battlefield, you're going to be seeing the same good old remastered units that came with the game, and for every faction, meaning it will run just as well as it normally does and look just as beautiful. All in all then, even though it's technically just a modding resource, if you've been looking for a fresh but familiar and nostalgic Rome Total War experience, then I can't recommend Vanilla Enhancement Map version 1 highly enough. However, if you want a few more subtle changes, then I have a few more mods I recommend to you. For more immersion, I use the cleaner region borderlines, which makes the campaign look more pleasant and less UI filled, so to speak, and I recommend the skip intro cinematics mod, which does save you a lot of time if you intend to actually play this game. For a bit of a bigger change on the battlefield, we have the amazing duo of Swagger's Blood mod and his RTRIS standalone graphics mod, which give these battlefields added depth, a few visual tweaks, and a sense of realism that the vanilla experience doesn't give. It's a subtle change at the end of the day, but it really helps to create a bit of a darker or epic atmosphere, if you will, and I like that a lot. But for some more impactful changes, a few mods I love to use alongside the new map, and these are all both interchangeable by the way and even save game compatible, is first, Danimoc's Roster's Expanded mod, which brings a total of 150 completely vanilla friendly units to the game. Now that might sound like a lot, but it's actually not that much. Rome, for example, gets only 4 new units, while the majority of other factions receive between 5 and 10 new units to play with. But we're also getting a bunch of new mercenaries that make up a big portion of that larger number. I particularly like that the Eastern factions have been getting a lot of love here. And again, very vanilla friendly as you can see, so they won't look as insanely realistic and detailed as the RIS models, but they're made to fit alongside the regular ones. So what we have here is a vanilla-like unit roster that gives every faction that was previously lacking in variety a lot more room to play with now. I think this is awesome, especially if you like that remastered look. But if you want something a bit more retro, then the original unit textures upscaled and original unit cards upscaled are simply awesome. These mods turn the unit models and their corresponding cards back into the original Rome Total War versions, but this time upscaled with higher resolutions. This means that they look so much better than they ever did, and they really fit into this game even to this day. You'll obviously get to choose which version you like here, the original or the remastered, but I think they still look great in that retro sense. And honestly, they look even better with Swagger's RTRIS standalone graphics mod, giving them not just their inherent new sharp look, but adds on that moody atmosphere. And that's it, fellas and felines, the ultimate Rome Total War Remastered vanilla-like experience. You don't really need much to make Rome fun, honestly. It's already a fantastic game, but I do think these mods make for a great and light bit of fresh fun. And by the way, Ahowl, the maker of the vanilla enhancement map I've showcased here, who's also the lead of RIS, just released a full vanilla enhancement mod, which brings the map I just mentioned with a few more changes while keeping it fairly vanilla friendly, all in one package. In other words, make sure to check out all the mods mentioned in this video and let me know your thoughts on this lighter modding experience. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!